Hello, everyone. Welcome to an APH Excel Academy. Today is how to use public transportation as a blind person, kind of your 101. We are so happy to have you with us today. Feel free to drop us a hello in the chat so that we can say hi. We are happy to have our friends join us today. Today is a APH Virtual Excel Academy Day. We are glad to have you with us. This is a day kind of meant for our little bit older students, but everyone is welcome. And we are going to talk about how to use public transportation as a blind person. Welcome, Donnie. Hello, Joy. Glad to have you here with us. It is a great day to learn. Again, you are at an APH Virtual Excel Academy. Today is how to use public transportation as a blind person. Almost that 101. We have two instructors here with us today. We have Michael and Amar. Hello, Michael and Amar. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I am going to turn it over to both of you. If you want to introduce yourselves so they know your voices, it's all yours.
Thank you, Leanne. Good afternoon, and we're excited to be here. We're grateful to be here. We're glad to talk to you all, and we hope you guys learned something about public transportation, riding the bus as someone who is blind. My name is Michael. I am an orientation and mobility specialist in Mesa, Arizona, and I have a co-host here with me. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Amar. I am a student at Mountain View High School in Mesa, Arizona. I am a senior, and I'm very excited to be here.
Go ahead and tell the audience about your visual impairment.
Yeah. So I completely forgot. So I'm blind. So I'm excited to be here to give my perspective on how I travel as a blind person, and just to give sort of a background and my opinion on how I do it.
Thank you, Amar. He is a senior and he will be attending college next year. And so we're real grateful that he's here today to help us with our presentation. So without any more delay, we're going to go ahead and start and talk about the 7 steps that we break down for bus travel for individuals who are blind. I feel like these 7 steps really help an individual do a task analysis of bus riding. You can break down these 7 steps and you can teach one of these skills at a time until the student gets it. And then as, of course, the student learns more and more of these steps, then you can incorporate more and more. But the steps really help with being able to just focus on one specific skill set that you want to work on, and they're not overwhelming. So step 1, and we're going to talk about all 7 of these steps in more detail throughout the rest of this presentation. And we're going to also open it up for you guys to have a little bit of a question and answer so we can talk to you and get your feedback about bus riding in regards to any one of these steps that we have listed here. And so I'll go ahead and introduce them. The first step is step 1, planning for your trip. And step 2 is locating the bus stop. Step 3 is boarding the bus. Step 4 is riding the bus. Step 5 is, signaling to stop. Step 6 is deboarding the bus. And then lastly, step 7 is locating your final destination. And real quick, before we get too much into the presentation, there are some necessary prerequisite skills that I think are important to mention right now in regards to skills that you want to have before you begin to use public transportation independently. And so, Amar, would you like to share with us some of the prerequisite skills that are important for a traveler who's going to use public transportation?
Okay, yeah. So some of the prerequisites, I'm sorry, are knowing your time and destination, knowing what time it is or where you want to go, knowing the address system in the area, It's important because you need to know which side of the street you need to be on, where you need to be on the north corner, south corner. That also kind of goes along with knowing your cardinal directions. Um, and street crossings, you just need to have a view on if you know how to cross the street. Um, Light business travel environment. So you need to know if what the travel environment is like, if it's busy or not that busy. You need to know. GPS technology is the final one. So just know how to use GPS technology if you need it, or yeah, if you need it.
Great. Awesome. Those are great. Again, those are the things you want before you would begin to do your own bus travel. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the ways that a blind person can do route planning in order to plan for their trip. This is step one. And Amar, why don't you go ahead and give us the ways we've selected as possible ways for a blind person to plan for their trip on a bus.
Okay, so these are steps you can use to plan for your route. Just different areas of technology or whatever you want to take to find out how you want to plan your trip. So the first option is Google Maps app. So using transit directions, searching for the bus stop, or using Google Assistant. Um, the next step is the Siri on your Apple iPhone or Apple Maps. You just say, "Hey Siri, give me directions to the McDonald's," and it can get you walking and transit directions there. Um, Using the transit app on your phone, which I have found very useful, just for when you're on the bus and locating um, when the bus stops and when the bus arrives. Calling your local agency. So like for Mesa in Arizona, it's called Valley Metro. So you'd call them and you'd figure out bus times, when the bus leaves, when the bus approximately arrives, and using maps.google.com on your computer with JAWS and making notes of the steps.
Great. I'd like to mention real fast that the maps.google.com website that all of us are somewhat familiar with is accessible with JAWS. And I do have students that use a laptop computer and with JAWS running, and they are able to get directions from the maps.google.com website in an accessible format. And I think that is one of the best ways for students to get step-by-step, turn-by-turn directions for themselves in regards to public transportation. So I want to highlight the fact that maps.google.com is accessible with JAWS, and it is a way for students or anybody to get step-by-step, turn-by-turn directions for using public transportation. Lastly, in review, this is step one is I want to review what we're talking about with trip planning. And trip planning can be done many different ways, as you can see. It can be done on a smartphone, it can be done on a computer, and it can be done via phone call to your local transit agency. But it is the most important step of all. Without a plan, you're going to have a trip that ends up in a failure. So the trip planning is something that needs to be done at home before you leave your house, and you can gather really all the information that you need to be successful before you leave the house. And so I think it's really important that our students learn how to do that for themselves and have that information before they actually step foot out of the door. Okay, now, having said that, I'm going to try to look for the chat box and see if there's any comments that anybody would like to share in regards to trip planning, anything that's worked for you, anything that's worked for the team, or any information you'd like to share with us about trip planning.
Hi, Michael. This is Robin. I just put into the chat window. Students, you are invited to share any tips you have for trip planning. We also want to know, do you do trip planning? Do you have a really good system or have learned, you know what, it's really important. So go ahead and share your tips or if you have learned the importance of trip planning. And as we wait for your comments to come through, I bet Amar has definitely learned the importance of trip planning versus when he has planned and when he hasn't planned.
Yes. I could think of a story right now and share it with you guys. So let's see. I think something happened this year, right? Where weren't we trying to go? Okay, yeah. So we were trying to go to a coffee shop, I think it was earlier on in the year. And I was just looking on the Google Maps, just trying to figure out, where I was going. And I wasn't using the other resources like the transit app or anything like that to find out the bus times. So I was just waiting for the bus and waiting and waiting. And it turns out I missed the bus. So it's important for trip planning because you never know if the bus is going to be late, especially since right now with COVID, the bus times are changing. So even if you've been on that bus, you never know if if it's going to be there at the same time because of COVID and everything with the buses changing time. So trip planning is important in that aspect.
Yep. And we live in a desert here in Mesa, Arizona. And the last thing you want to do is wait at a bus stop for any longer than you absolutely must have to wait. So it looks like there's a couple messages in here. So we have a comment, former O&M and I just winged it on our first and only bus travel. Definitely was interesting. Yeah, interesting is usually not what you want to have, happen on a bus trip. What I like to teach my students is, I don't want any surprises to happen for my students on a bus trip. So I try to prepare them as much as possible for anything that could happen for them on that trip. I want it to be kind of like I had already imagined it happened and done it. And now I'm just taking a student along with me. So planning is, again, the most important thing. And then we have another comment. Monica says she has learned the importance of planning because she went out after and school thing, but it didn't plan well, forgot her bus ID. Exactly. Yes, that's a good point. So mistakes will happen. You can't prepare for everything. And here's a great comment from Dean that says to make sure your devices are charged up. Yes. And a portable charger, Dean. Yes. And trip planning and have a plan A, B, and C. Those are all great comments.
Don't rely on your phone to last at 10% for an hour.
Right. Exactly.
It won't.
Okay. One. All right. So there we go. Sorry, I think you couldn't see us during those comments, but we wanted to highlight those comments, and we wanted to thank you for those great comments there. Again, trip planning is by far and away the most important thing. Judy has a comment that says make sure you check your seat before you sit down and make sure there's nothing on it that you don't want to sit in or on. Yes, that is very true on the bus or anywhere, but especially on the bus. And we're going to kind of get to more of those steps now after as we go along in our presentation.
Hey, Michael, there was also a really good message from Riley. He says, or Riley, they say, sorry, if the bus is crowded, bring your headphones so you can hear your screen reader.
That is excellent advice.
And let's see, Rich says, don't fall asleep and miss your stop. While Nitya says, make sure you take your cane with you. That is always an important thing. We agree. And then Michael and Amar, Meg had a question. She says, do you have to know all of this stuff before taking a first ride?
In order for you to get some practice, in order to answer that question, I would want you to just actually take it simple and just walk to wherever you think in a safe neighborhood with COVID precautions. Just go check out your closest bus stop to your house. Just go check out where, just to go see if you can find it. I think that's a really good first step for students or for anybody who's even thinking about wanting to ride the bus. I think it would be very helpful to, once you get the information of where's the bus that is closest to your house or closest to your work by calling the agency or using your smartphone, then I think the next logical step is to just take a little walk over to the bus stop and just see if you can find it and listen to the announcements for a little while. But yeah, we're going to talk some more about safety, and that's a good question about, do you have to know all this information? Again, this presentation is for, high school or upper junior high and adults who can make safe decisions. So absolutely, go with somebody you trust that you is a safe adult that's with you before you were to do any of this. Yes, if you're not sure. Okay, so we're going to jump right back into our presentation, and we are going to go on to step 2 and talk about, step 2 is locating the bus stop. So Amar, let's go ahead and let's talk about some of the easiest ways to locate your bus stop.
Yeah, so again, there are a few steps you could take for this. There's different steps and different applications on your phone and stuff like that you can use. Sorry, to find the bus stop. One is using Google Maps for walking directions to the bus stop. You could download it if you have an iPhone. You could download the Google Maps, or you can use just the Apple Maps on your phone. The next is making sure you know the directional corner of the bus stop, so knowing what corner it's on. Again, your cardinal directions play into that, which we talked about in the previous step. Next is check the stop ID. So usually in some cities, you can type in the stop ID in Google Maps. I don't know if it's in every city, but it's in some of them. And Google Maps can locate the bus stop with the stop ID. You can usually find that online or at the bus stop, wherever you need to find that. The next is use the text and or call feature of your local agency to get the bus arrival time. So that's just important, just to know when your bus is arriving and how long you have to get to the bus stop. And the next is standing in an appropriate manner so the bus driver can see you and your cane. So that's just standing in front of the bus stops with your cane in front of you, so the driver sees you and your cane, and he knows when to stop, and then so he knows you can get on the bus.
Yep. Thank you, Amar. One of the things I want to make sure all O&M instructors know and students know is that every single stop in your public transportation region has its own unique stop ID. And this is not the bus route number, and it is not the bus, the street number that you're on. It's what it is it's a unique number for every single bus stop. And so if you ever need to find assistance from your local transit agency about where a certain bus stop is, the piece of information that you're going to want to know is the stop ID. And so I think it's important that we remember that whenever we're using a bus route and we're standing and waiting at a bus stop, that there is a stop ID that we can reference if we call and we need some help with that. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of look at the chat box here a little bit and see if there were any questions, because finding the bus stop, I think, is really one of the more difficult steps, or I would, one of the ones that probably requires the most practice for students is how to correctly find a bus stop. So I'm going to wait and monitor the chat room for just a few seconds. All right, so great deal. So we are going to go ahead and jump right back into the presentation and go right in over to step number 3.
Oh, wait, before we go to step 3, hi, this is Michael. Right when you moved on, Nitya joined the chat and said, is there any way where blind people can know which routes we are on?
That's a great question, Amar.
Yeah. Okay. So and we'll also get to this more in depth, but for now, when you're getting onto the bus, some buses have an automated speaker outside the bus that'll tell you, Route 36 going north, and you'll know from there. Or when you get onto the bus, you can ask the driver if this is the correct bus. You can tell him which bus you're trying to get on, and he'll tell you what bus it is and if you're if you're in the right area. So just those couple ways you can use those resources to find the correct bus stop.
Exactly, Amar. So that's a great question. And like Amar says, the bus has announcements that are with speakers on the outside of the bus that are there to announce the bus route and name and maybe the heading of the bus. And that is a speaker on the outside of the bus that plays and turns on when the bus comes to a stop at the bus stop. So you would want to listen for that announcement that happens when the bus pulls up. And when you hear the one that you want, then, make sure you walk in that direction. It looks like we also have another question from Samantha. I hope I said that right. How do you identify that you are at the bus stop? So that is a great question, and that is some of the information that we're talking about. And so one of the important things to know about bus stops is besides calling your agency, which is one of the things we talked about, it's also important to know the directionality corners of bus stops. So what I mean is the bus stop that you're looking for, which directionality corner of the intersection is your bus stop. So if you have that information, then you can at least get to the correct corner of the intersection that your bus stop is at. And again, calling your local agency and talking to them about what is at that particular bus stop is very helpful, such as, does it have a bench? Does it have a trash can? Does it just have a pole? Does it have a shelter? So every bus stop is different, and it's important to have some of that information with you before you head out to try and locate that particular bus stop. We have another question from Riley. If the stop is in the middle of a driveway or street, is there any way to know where the bus will pull up at? And, Riley, that just really takes practice and familiarity, excuse me, with that particular bus stop. And so that takes a lot of practice with your time. You would have to spend a lot of time at that particular stop to begin to think about exactly if there's multiple buses that go there, where exactly does your bus usually stop? And normally it will be in one particular spot. And that may just take some practice by just going there and just getting familiar with that particular bus stop. We have a couple more comments we'll go through from Rickalin. Where we live, the bus stop pole is a different shape than the other poles. That's a great comment. Thank you for that. And that's a wonderful observation. That can also be a very useful tool for individuals maybe the bus stop poles are all square, the pole's square, and the others, everything else is round. So that may be another good thing to sort of think about when you're looking for a bus stop. And then the last comment for this slide is from Rich. For some reason, Kansas City doesn't have the automated speakers on the outside of the bus. So, Amar, if there's a bus that doesn't have the automated speakers that are on the outside of the bus, how can you make sure that you're getting on the right bus?
So when you get onto the bus, you'll get on through the front, uh, and you'll just have to ask the driver if this is the correct bus. You can ask him, "Is this the?" Say you're trying to get on like the 32, and you can be like, "Is this the route 32 going north?" And he can tell you no or yes. And then if it's not, then he can give you sort of directions on how to get there.
Great. And that's a good comment, Rich, because I think with ADA laws, the American with Disabilities Act laws are supposed to have announcements on the outside, but obviously not all of them do, and not all of them work. And so we're going to go ahead, and these are wonderful comments, and please keep them coming in. And we're going to go ahead and jump back into our presentation with the next step, which is boarding the bus. And so this is step 3 of our procedure. And Amar, will you please share with us your steps for boarding the bus?
All right. So the first one is wait for the bus to come to a complete stop. Go through the front door. So a lot of these, I don't know how they'll apply currently with COVID, because I know in our area they're having us go through the back door. But typically, this is what you're gonna do if we didn't have COVID in our lives right now. But typically, this is what we're gonna do, and we can figure out other ways currently. Um, but this is what typically you do. So you'll go through the front door. You'll listen, as we said earlier, for the announcements outside, or verify with the driver the bus number and heading, where you're trying to go. You'll pay the fare in the fare box if there is a fee to get onto the bus, with dollar bills or coins. You'll sit in the front of the bus on the passenger side. And we just say this because you can communicate with the driver easily if you just want to say, "Oh, this is my next stop," because the driver sometimes going to forget what stop you're trying to get off of, so you need to remind him. So when you're on the bus, you can communicate with the driver easily. And the next thing is, don't block the aisleway with your cane. Keep it vertically in front of you, in front of your legs.
And that's the most important, I think, helpful information for our students to use, or anybody who's visually impaired, is to sit in the front of the bus and on the passenger side. And just like Omar says, that way the driver is very much less likely to forget about you, and you can also communicate with the driver easily from the passenger side of the bus. And so I'm going to kind of give the audience just a second to talk about any questions or issues they've had about getting on the bus, paying your fare, or finding your seat. Okay. All right. Looks like we have, another great question from Riley again. And the question is, what do you do if all the front seats are taken? And Amar, what would you do if all the front seats were taken?
Okay, so at that point, what I typically do, and I don't know if this is one of the best ways to do it, but this is what I typically do. Then at that point, I would just go to the next available seat, closest available seat, close to the front. Um, hopefully there's one at least close by available. If not, yeah, as far as you are is fine. You'll just need to then make your voice a little louder if you need to communicate with the driver. And we'll get to other ways, if you're not close to the front, you can get off the bus if you need to tell your driver, oh, this is a stop. Um, there's different, there's a string located everywhere on the bus. There's different buttons around the bus that you can press to notify the driver. So there's a lot of different ways if you really do need to sit in the back of the bus.
And yeah, and also, as I mentioned, the front of the bus is reserved specifically by the Americans with Disabilities Act for individuals with disabilities. So my general advice to my students in a case like that is to strongly advocate that you get to sit in those front seats. That may mean that you just stand there and kind of like, awkwardly, not touch anybody, but just kind of make it obvious that that's where you want to sit and that's where you need to sit and that's where you expect to sit. Again, it is the right to have anybody with a disability sit up front at the front of the bus. And most of the time, 99% of the time, in a situation like that, the bus driver usually is kind enough to say something like to the other passengers, excuse me, that seat needs to be available.
And typically, people, when they see you walk by and they see you trying to sit in the chair, they're usually pretty quick at moving most of the
Right.
time.
And real quick, also before we go any further, getting on the bus now in the age of COVID is a whole new animal. And because of all of the precautions that people have with this virus that's going around, things are different now because of COVID on the bus. Amar, can you share with us just a couple of the differences that are in place now with bus riding because of this pandemic?
Yeah, basically the opposite of everything I just stated. So, one,
forget it.
You can't board at the front of the bus. You have to board one of the back doors. The front seats are barricaded off, so you can't sit at the front. You have to sit close to the back. There's no fee to get on the bus, so I guess that's the good thing. That's one of the good things about it. You don't really have to pay to get on the bus. That's it.
Yep.
That's really it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and also the service times are decreased a little bit. So there's fewer buses, there's fewer routes, or there's less of a schedule that you could use. So those are all some things that are in place now because of COVID that are interesting for our students now. But at least here in Mesa, the buses are still running every 30 minutes and people are still riding them, and as well as the train. So it hasn't shut down, but the procedure for it has changed just a little bit. And if there are no other questions on this particular step of riding the bus, then we will move on. Oh, looks like we have, okay, we have a couple of questions actually that I'll go ahead and address real quickly, or comments. There was one from Nitya. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And the question is, can blind people use apps like a compass? And I mean, I would say yes, it's helpful. It is very helpful, and a compass is a very important skill to have to understand your cardinal directions when you are riding the bus, but it's not the only skill you would need in order to be successful on a bus trip. but it would be helpful to know where the bus stop is, to finding bus stops, and it would be helpful to know that you're on the right bus at times. And then the other thing is a comment, what can we use instead of a bus? And if we have time at the end of this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about what that is. The other alternatives to riding a bus, which would be paratransit in your local city. I don't get mad at Amar when he uses it, but he does use it sometimes.
Sometimes. I do try most of the time to use public transportation as much as possible because it does run on a schedule. With paratransit, sometimes you have like a 30-minute window that you're on, and it's really on their time, so it sometimes can be a little inconvenient. So,
and if we have time, that's a great question. But paratransit in your area will have a different name, but it's PARA, paratransit, TRANSIT. And you can look that up on Google and, probably find the local agency that you would try to call for that service. Okay, and so now I'm going to go ahead and jump back into the presentation. As long as I didn't miss anything, which I don't think I did. 1 second. Okay. All right. Okay, great. So now we're going to go ahead and jump back into the presentation. Amar, let's make sure you just lean forward when you're talking into the microphone. Okay?
all right.
1 second. All right. So now we're going to do riding the bus.
All right. I got
Step
it.
4.
So these are just pretty straightforward steps to do to use while you're riding the bus. This is very cliche. Don't talk to strangers. It says your cane is a people magnet, and do not be distracted by using your phone. So the talking to strangers thing is just saying, when you're talking to people, you could get distracted and miss the stop, and people could try to distract you because you have your cane, and they'll try to be overly helpful. So just be careful with that. We already said this. Sit in the front on the passenger side. Use time concepts to help with orientation. Just know the time, how long you've been on the bus. When you're doing your trip planning, you'll know how long approximately you're supposed to be on the bus. So you'll be able to kind of monitor that time and be like, oh, it's been like 20 minutes. I should probably get off now, and be able to communicate with the driver and see where you're at. Use the transit app or Google Maps to know when to deboard the bus. The transit app is really good because it notifies you 2 stops until you have to get off the bus. 1 stop. The next stop is time for you to get off. So it just notifies you when it's time to get off the bus. I think the final step is use indoor auditory system, if there is one on your bus, to know when to get off.
Yes, and thank you, Amar. And that goes back to the question about Kansas City not having a outdoor announcement system for the individual that was in Kansas City. And so if there's no outdoor announcement system, there may not be any indoor announcement system. And in that case, a passenger can and should tell the driver to announce the stops. So buses have to be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's the 3rd time I've referenced that act in this presentation. But part of that compliance with the American with Disabilities Act is that there must be announcements on the bus for certain landmarks and cross streets. And therefore, if you live in a place that doesn't have the system in place that does that, it is required by ADA that the bus driver of that particular bus communicate with those certain landmarks with the passengers as the bus is traveling on the road. So I think that's an important thing for travelers to remember is they have the right to ask that the driver announce on a speaker with a microphone which intersections and landmarks the bus is passing. That is part of the Americans with Disabilities Act and is true throughout the country. Okay, then I think this is Rich again on from Kansas City. They do have the announcements on the inside, but not on the outdoors. But still, that's good, Rich. But still, it is your right to know where that bus is going for any passenger that's on that bus. But it's good that they have it at least indoors. And for the comment about where can we get the app from Nitya, what I'll do is we have a handout that we're going to prepare for you guys and share with all of you. If you haven't, we're going to share this handout with you. And in the handout, we will have the links for the apps that we use when we're riding on the bus.
Yeah. So if you did want to look it up though, as as we're doing this or after, before we send out the handout, on the Apple iPhone or Android, you can go to either the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Just look up Google Maps or Transit, and they're both there. They're free, and you just download it, and it just gets your location from where you are, and it'll notify you. You can look up your destination and stuff.
Thank you, Amar. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump back into our presentation here with step number 5, which is our signaling to stop step. So Amar, can you share with us what are 5 steps for the stop to get to signal to stop, please?
Yeah. So there are really just 2 or 3 ways you can use to ask the driver to stop or signal to stop. The first is using the cord that's above the seat. So typically on a bus, I've seen it on really every bus I've been on. There is a cord above you by the window when you're sitting by the window. You pull that cord and the driver will know when to stop. If you either can't find a cord or there is no cord, then there are buttons located on poles throughout various places on the bus you can search for and be able to press that button. And like I said, you can also ask the driver politely when you just say next stop, please, or when is the next stop, or what is the next stop.
Yep. And yep. And so signaling to stop is not one of the hardest parts of the trip, but it is one of the most important parts of the trip. So I always encourage my students to signal by pulling on the cord, as well as ask the driver nicely, can you please let me off at the next stop? Drivers are people too. Your bus driver is a human being, unless it's automated, which we have here. But anyway, they make mistakes. And so they'll forget about you. It happened to Amar recently when Amar was on the bus. The bus driver forgot about him, that he needed assistance to get off the bus at the right time. So Amar, tell us real quick about that situation.
Yeah, so I was trying to take the bus back to my school from a lesson, and we were on the bus. At the time, I don't know why I completely forgot to pull the cord that was above me. But I asked the driver, okay, let me know when we get to, I don't even know, I think it was like Brown or something. Let me know when we get to Brown. So I think we like passed Brown, and I noticed it because I like noticed. I was like, wait, I'm on the bus longer than I should be. So I was like, oh, what stop did we just pass? And he was like, oh, Brown. And I was like, oh man. Let me.
What happened?
So I asked him, can you stop at the next stop? And then I pulled the cord because he couldn't hear me because at the time the driver was still far away because it's still COVID. So I pulled the cord and I got off at the next stop, and I was able to walk back. Luckily, it wasn't that far, but it's important just to pull that cord or press the button so you can get off.
Yep. So he walked back to the bus stop but the driver forgot about him. So we have one question or comment from Samarth. How would you know where the buttons are on the bus? And that's a great question, Samarth. How would you know where the buttons are on the bus? Amar, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. So the poles with the buttons are usually the poles on the side next to the chair or the ones in the middle. Like there are some poles that are like right in front of the chairs. So they're usually next to the chair on the side or sort of like in front of you. Um, and they're just you have to really search for them. So they're not easy to find like the cords. The cords are a lot easier because it's really everywhere on the bus. You can just reach up above the window and pull it. So they're a lot easier than the buttons, but the buttons you really need to search for them, but they are there.
So in addition to that, Samarth, I always encourage my students to use the cords that are behind the bus on the windows, because those are a lot easier to find. The other ones you have to search and look around, and the bus is not the place where you want to
Touch stuff.
you don't want to touch it. You don't want to reach around searching for a button on the bus. Okay, so the easiest and most sanitary way to do that is to just reach up behind your head and know that there's the cord up above your head, and those are always in the front by the windows. And so we're going to go ahead and jump back into our presentation with step number 6. And we're going to go ahead and go with deboarding the bus. And let's go ahead and do step 6 and step 7 together.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because step 6 is pretty straightforward, and then it kind of goes along with step 7. So we'll do step 6 and step 7. So the steps are basically for beginners to go through the front door, to talk to the driver and make sure you're getting off at the right stop. If you have practice and you're pretty confident, then you can go off the back of the bus. Like most people go off the back of the bus. So if you're experienced and you kind of know what you're doing, you can go off the back of the bus. Have a plan before you step off about where you want to go or where you think you're going. So you're not just standing there thinking about where you want to go. If you need to, you can ask the driver, "Oh, where is the street behind the bus or in front of the bus?" And try to stay away from left and right, because one, the driver may not know his left or his or her left or right, or just may not. He may be facing a different direction than you, so he may not know.
Again, I just want to highlight that last comment, which is I always encourage my students to ask the question, I'm going to use McDonald's as an example. I ask my students to ask the driver, is McDonald's in front of the bus or is McDonald's behind the bus? When you're communicating with bus drivers, you need to make things as simple as possible. And so if you use things like left and right, it can get confusing because who knows who's left or right they're talking about. So if you need to communicate with the driver, you can say, is a landmark in front of the bus or is it behind the bus? And that usually can keep you out of any miscommunication with the driver. And then we're going to go ahead and jump right into the last step of our presentation, which is step 7, which is locating your final destination, which is obviously critical. We don't want anybody to just ride the bus for fun as much as you love it, but we want you to actually go somewhere, right? It's for a purpose. It's for a reason. Why are we riding the bus? Well, we're riding the bus so we can get to a place we want to go. So we have some steps here that can help you with locating that final destination that you're looking for.
Okay, yeah. So by this time, you'll probably have your Google Maps up for your final destination, and you'll have it set for walking directions. If you've ended it and you want to start it up again, you'd start for walking directions to wherever you need to go. You could also use your understanding of the address system in your area. So once you've kind of found the general direction of where you're going, you need to know if you need to cross the street or need to uh, stay on that side of the street. So you'd know, okay, do I need to cross the street to get to that specific address? Um, Again, that's part of being aware of your cardinal directions. Um, be careful around parking lots and corner stores. The main reason for that is there are no rules in parking lots, so cars and people just kind of go wherever they really want to go. And there's no stoplights, no stop signs, or anything like that. So that's the main reason for that.
Yes, and Amar, can you also talk a little bit about using I think you mentioned it, but I want to highlight it one more time about using Google Maps in walking mode, and one of the complications that may arise when you're trying to find a destination using Google Maps.
Yeah, so in Google Maps, sometimes or most of the time, it doesn't tell you if you need to cross the street for when you're looking for your destination. So like say you're there, but it's on the other side of the street. It won't let you know that. So that's why again it's important to know the address system in your area to be like, oh, I need to cross the street because technology isn't that advanced to know that you're on the wrong side of the street.
Yes, exactly. And of course, you don't want to run across the middle of a street. So that's why we have the prerequisites listed in here about street crossings and cardinal directions and addresses. One final thing that we haven't mentioned verbally in this presentation that we should mention is a couple smartphone apps on your smartphone that are available. One is called IRA, which some of you may be familiar with, which is AIRA, IRA. And the other one is called Be My Eyes,
MYEYES.
Be My Eyes. And those can help you find a destination as well, because it uses like a FaceTime video call with somebody on the other end who is looking on your looking at your camera and can help you with your navigation in an unknown particular area. So those two apps on your smartphone are options for individuals to help them navigate that final few steps safely and independently. Okay, so I'm going to wait just a few more minutes. We covered a lot of information in the last couple of steps. And so we're going to see if we have any questions or comments in the chat box. All right. All right. So it looks like we don't have any comments right now or questions. Thank you, Judy. And from Sheila. I'm going to actually read the chat box a little bit. And we have a comment about soundscape for bus riding. And soundscape, I believe, is an option. I think it's only on Android. Don't quote me on that, but it may be only on Android.
No, I think it's on iPhone.
Is it on iPhone?
I think it's on iPhones too.
But soundscape may be a good resource for a navigation purposes for if you have a smartphone. We also have a question for Amar. Amar, what is your most used app for navigating?
Okay, so I use Google Maps when I'm using walking directions, and then so I have to use both. So Google Maps for walking directions, and then when I'm actually locating the bus or I'm on the bus, I use Transit. So I use both because they both have their pros and cons. So I use them. I have them both up when I'm traveling.
Great. And we have a comment from Rich about Soundscape from Microsoft is available on iOS. And we don't know much. Do you know much about Soundscape?
I have
Amar?
heard of it. I have not used it yet, but I have heard of it. Yeah.
So we're going to have to do
I'm
our
gonna have to start
research.
looking at
We're going to look it up. Rich, I don't know much about it. And there's also some other ones that are available for bus travel, specifically from Judy that she's mentioned. One is Move It, MOOVIT, is a good one. And Transit is another good one that I prefer. And then maybe there's one called Go as well. We have another comment or question for Amar. Amar, do you use an iPhone or an Android?
I have an iPhone. I'm an iPhone.
He is an iPhone fanboy. He has all the iPhone products, the Apple Watch, the Apple phone, the iPad. He's got all of them. He owns all of them.
I'm waiting on a Mac. No, I'm kidding.
Rich says respect.
Yeah.
So he's an iPhone fanboy for sure, for sure. I know we're about 5 minutes from the end of the hour. And
Should we go over one more thing, the questions that you should ask?
yeah, okay, sure.
The last thing.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
go ahead. Amar would like to present just a little bit more information for you guys quickly.
These
Oh,
are
wait one
okay,
second.
okay.
Sorry, there we go.
Okay, yeah. So these are just straightforward questions that you should know once you're planning your trip before you actually step out the door to go on your trip. So you need to know where's the bus stop, where the bus, where to catch the bus, how long is that bus, how long should you ride that bus, how long should you be on that bus, and do you transfer when you're on that bus? So do you have to go on 2 different buses to get to your destination? And yeah, I think that's
And
it, right?
describe your
Oh
final
yeah,
walk.
and describe the final walk and to know how to catch your final destination.
So those are like the critical pieces of information you want to have before you were to leave your house on a novel bus trip. And that's about all we have for today. Amar and I would like to thank all of you for your presence and attention in this
And participation.
and participation in this particular webinar, and for the information that we can research about Soundscape.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great. So we had a wonderful way to think about bus travel, which is part of our travel series that we've been doing this semester of the Excel Academy. Our next one is about taking the train. So trains are used for more than just long trips. There are some places where you go on short trips where trains. So Amar, if you've not been traveling on trains, maybe you want to join in with us. Otherwise, tomorrow we are talking about taking responsibility for the environment. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Michael and Amar, for giving us a good tour of bus travel.